guys, I wanted to show you how to do the triple crochet as a border on probably one of your loom knitting projects. This is just a sample I did. It's not a perfect rectangle, so it may look a little wonky when I do it, but this is a little blanket I made for my daughter, one of her stuffed animals, and she said I could make it bigger, so that's why I want to go ahead and use this as a sample of how to do the triple crochet stitch. As you can see here, what it does is it creates a bigger stitch. And all that's different between a single, a double, and a triple is how many times we end up wrapping the working yarn around our crochet hook before we go into a stitch. So that's the main thing I want to say is the difference between these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to frog what I have just because I wanted to show you kind of what it looks like on there first. So, and again with crochet you can just take that out and then pull it, and then it goes all the way back to the beginning, and you don't have to worry about feeling bad about frogging your project. Believe me, I've frogged plenty of them. Okay, so what we want to do, first I want to make sure this isn't moving on me here. We have our slip knot. I have it behind the project. Taking my crochet hook. Now I'm using a size, what is it here? H. Normally I use a G, but I lost it. So if it looks like I'm having a little hard time, I'm probably not using the right crochet hook for the yarn, but this is the only one I have. I'm realizing I might need to double up on some of my crochet hooks just for the purpose of losing them. So we got this, and we're going to bring it up to our slip knot and bring it through a little bit. Oops. Now what we want to do, because that's our loop, is grab our working yarn, and we're going to wrap the crochet hook twice. 1, 2. Your working tail just kind of put behind if you can. So we wrapped it twice. Now we want to go into the next stitch that we want to do. Grab our working yarn, bring it through. So now as you can see, how many loops that we have on there? We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wrap the crochet hook. And now what you're going to do is bring that loop, new loop you have, through 2 of the loops. Now you have 3 loops left on there. Go ahead, re-wrap the crochet hook, bring that loop through the next 2, if you're able to. Like I said, I'm not using the right crochet hook, so it's going to be a little tighter for me. And a lot of it, as you can kind of see. Now we have just 2 left on there. So go ahead, wrap it one more time, and bring that last one through the last 2 that are on there. And that's our first one. I just gotta fix that here. So again, what we're doing is you're wrapping it twice around your crochet hook, going into a stitch to grab your working yarn, to bring it back through. You have 4 loops on your crochet hook. Wrap your loop, make a loop around your crochet hook, bring it through 2 of them. So you have 3 left. Wrap it again. Oops, bring it through the next 2. Now you have 2 left. Wrap it again and bring it through the next 2. Or the last 2, I should say. Okay. And then we'll just do it one more time. Wrap it twice. Go in a stitch. Bring it through. Wrap it again. Bring it through 2. Wrap again. Bring it through 2. Wrap one last time. And bring it through 2. So we're going to work this a little bit so you can see when you get going how fast you can actually go. And again, just take your time, there's no rush. You can see you're just working it through. And what you're getting is that bigger stitch right there. I might have missed one of the stitches. But again, however, you can decide to move further out from a stitch. I mean, you're trying to find the next one if you can and work it. And you're going to do the same thing we did on double crochet and single crochet by putting extra when you get to a corner. I really should have started with the shorter side. But again, as you can see, we're getting a higher stitch. So we're adding a good amount of this to this. So if we want to, we could do more of these in between if you didn't want so much of a gap, as you see there. Let's let it focus in here. You wouldn't have as much of a gap if you want to do more in a chain or more chains in between each one. And again, it's going to depend on which crochet you did before it. Like I said, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way over till I get to the first corner here, and then I'll show you, just like I did in the other videos for crochet, how to turn the corner. Alright, so I've worked the triple crochet, as you see, from one corner over, and it creates that bigger stitch. That's what I like. And I'm getting ready to get to my first corner now. Keep in mind, my project isn't a perfect rectangle, so my corner's a little different, but I'm still going to do the same idea of adding extra stitches like I did with the single and the double crochet when I get to the corner. I just got to do a couple more of the regular, which again, we're wrapping it twice. Going into the next stitch that we find. Bringing that through. So we have the 4 loops on there. Going through 2. Going through 2 again. And then going through 2 again as we're wrapping our crochet hook each time. When you get, oops, gotta loosen up my yarn here. When you get to the corner, we're going to be adding stitches. If you remember right, we usually add an extra couple stitches in that corner. Oops. And it might be a little tricky in the spot, but we will see. Okay, so we're going to go through. It really likes to fight me sometimes. Okay, and last one through. Oops, because I lost it. But when we get to the turning part, you want to do extra stitches in one of the stitches in the corner. Like the stitch that we're going to do next is right there. And so when I wrap this, I'm going to go into that stitch, pull it through, and do my normal triple crochet. But now I'm going to redo it in the same stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrap it twice and go back in that same stitch that I just did and do the triple crochet again. Okay, we're going to try one more time to go in that same stitch. This is for our last third time to rotate it. Oops, I gotta go back to the beginning because I just messed up what I was doing here. Okay, so we're wrapping it the twice, going back in for the third time into that same stitch, bring it up, and going through 2 as we wrap it. Again, we wrap the crochet hook, bring it through 2, wrap it again, bring it through another 2, wrap it one more time to bring it through the last 2. See, there's one little straggler that's making it tricky. Okay, gotta do that again. It's usually not this big of a deal. I do not know why it's giving me so many problems. Okay, this is the second one. I had to rewind back to the second one. I'm just trying to catch up to where we were. Oh, will you stop fighting me? Okay. Now let's try the third one again. Do that same stitch. Because usually you need at least 3 when you go to turn the project. Is what I've seemed to notice when I've been practicing this. You may decide that you need to do a few more. I mean, it's going to depend on the yarn. It's going to be depending on the project you're doing. All that stuff as well. So there's our third one. And as you can see, what that's doing is allowing us to come around the project. That's why we want to do more in that last stitch in the corners. Each time you hit a corner, you're going to do 3 at least in that same stitch as you work your way around. But as you can see, it creates a nice thickness. I mean, this was probably single crochet in here, but this is the triple. And as you can see, it pretty wide stitch. And then all you do once you do your turn is you continue on just like we did in the other videos, doing the same process of the stitch that you just did. So I went around the whole project, and as you can see, again, this isn't a perfect rectangle to begin with, so when I went around, it's not perfect, but I really love the edge, like I said. And I know these colors may not go together, the orange and the autumn colors and the blue, but I wanted that you to be able to see the difference easy enough between how the height of the stitches get you. And I've went all the way around, like I said, doing 3 in the corners, and now I'm at the last little corner part right here. I almost finished it off, and I went, oh, that's not good. I got to show them how to do it. I was getting into the crocheting groove, so to speak, and I almost forgot that I would have been finishing this off and not having recorded, so I would have had to frog the project. back to it. Okay, so we've got almost, I think, one more stitch to do before we have to join them. Let's zoom in on here a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. See how they're not quite joined together? This is where we started, this is where we're ending. Okay, so we're going to wrap it again, but 2 times like we did before. I'm going to go into one of the last stitches that we have to do, bring it through. Again, it's going through 2, wrap, go through 2 again, wrap, go through the last 2. And you want to make sure your working yarn is kind of loose so that it will come up. I hate when it's tight because then it starts messing up what I'm doing. But as you can see, we need to get to that corner, so we're going to rewrap it again. We're going to go back into that same stitch this time because I want to almost work it like a corner. And we're doing the same triple stitch here. Oops, get over here. Okay, so one more time into that same stitch. Okay, 1. Oops, gotta get through. And last one. Now we should be able to go over, and what we can do is, if you look, I didn't start right at the beginning. I'm sorry if that was blurry. I didn't start right at the beginning, probably, so I have an extra stitch in there if I wanted to do another one. So I'm going to actually go into the stitch, if I can, and do one last little hurrah stitch here that should make it a little easier for joining. And this should allow me to just go over and do a single, join them together, looking at the top. As you notice, I didn't have more than one stitch. And we should be able to bring this right through. And what that is doing is kind of joining the project together. If you didn't want to do that extra stitch, you didn't have to. Cut yourself the working yarn. And what we're going to do is we're going to hide our straggler. And we're going to go back into the stitch, pull it forward, and we're going to, we're going to tie it off here. Okay, and bring that, working yarn through. So hang on a second. Sorry about that, I had to refix what I had going on here. So I brought the loop over. I'm going into one of my starter loops to grab the working yarn, and I've got the 2 on there. And I actually want to pull this all the way through. My yarn was kind of fraying on me, so it was making it a little harder to show you guys. You want to pull that through if you can, so that it kind of helps join those together. And what you can do is, I would consider this the front. If you want, you can turn it over to what you consider the back, and you can hide your stitch in there if you want, just by kind of looping it through some of the stitches. I mean, you basically just want it to be tied off in a way that you can't see it, or that it's going to keep the project from unraveling. So just do that. Sometimes I like to do an extra knot and make it tight, and then cut your excess off that you don't need, and you can hide this extra tail later. But what that does is get you a nice little edge around the project, and like I said, and then we join them together over here. So it's a little wonky there, but it's not too bad. But again, I like how thick the stitch makes it, how wide of a stitch you get. If you look at it really close, you really get a good, probably inch. I mean, if you look at my thumbnail, about an inch, just by doing that triple crochet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you like below to see more. Have a great day, everyone.